I'm Marley, and this is the Golden Gator Society, where we talk about fun fantasy books in a safe and reflective way, just on how we connect with the characters. So today we're going to talk about a fantastic book. It's Midnight Masquerade by Ellen Dugan. It's the second book in the Daughters of Midnight series, and I have to tell you that Gabriella, Ella, our main character and leading lady, I think that if I could pick a best friend to be my lifelong best friend, it would definitely be her, because she is so real. And we meet her when she's at this point where she's the middle child. She's always kind of just gone with the flow and tried to make things easier for everybody else, and hides herself in her work a little bit and puts herself second. And she becomes like Ella Unleashed in this story. And I love it so much to see her raw, spicy, sassy humanness come forward. And starting out, it's this unrequited love that she has with her best friend. And at first we think that she's going to go to this masquerade and everything is going to work out for her and that she's going to be with her best friend Max. But she gets literally, I could not have created a worse situation to have happen. My jaw was dropping when I found out how they decided that this was not going to be something that was going to happen. They were not going to be together. Max's reaction was so crappy. And the thing is it's also real though. I was so ready to just hate Max. But the thing is that when you think that a relationship is one way and you find out that somebody has been hiding something from you, that's a betrayal of trust, right? So Max was feeling a little bit betrayed. And as much as I don't want to advocate for him, it's just after sitting with that scene, it's I know that I've had friends that were interested in me that I didn't feel the same way about them. And I had some of that feeling wow, this person has been thinking this the whole time. They should have told me beforehand so that I could have clarified things for them and didn't accidentally mislead them in any way. And I've also had friends that I've started to have romantic feelings for and they didn't feel that way. And those relationships usually dissolved. So I'm curious other people's experience on having this happen, and if maybe you've had a bad reaction like Max did, or if you've been on the receiving end of something like that. But the good news is that Ella has this chance to be able to still express her wonderfulness and get to be seen for the night. And that's with Mr. Philippe Marquette, who is our Frenchman that we love, because he's a little bit mysterious, because he's French, he's from somewhere else, he has his whole life somewhere else, and he's come to Ames Crossing to build up this winery with his friend, and he's restoring this mansion. So he's rich, he's handsome, he's intriguing, and his entire energy is just focused on Ella. And that has to feel absolutely amazing. And she felt that, and she got to have that very special experience. But then lo and behold, the birds and the bees make the flowers and the trees, and she gets pregnant, which was unexpected for her. And instead of leaning on her sisters and her gran for support, she decides to go inward, and she keeps this all to herself. And we know that the mind and the body is connected. And I really feel because she was at this point where she was really wanting to show herself, and she felt like she did, but then she had this unintended consequence. She had this really bad morning sickness, and all of the worry and all of the fears about how people were going to react to the fact that she got pregnant in a one-night stand, and all of her fears about really being her and where she stood with this new partner. It all kind of bubbled up inside of her and created literal barf. So she's sitting here being terribly uncomfortable. The weather is getting hot. And this is where her spice and sass gets unleashed. But it's real. and it's her, and she's uncomfortable. And there's this scene in particular that I think is probably my favorite scene in the book, where she's at a meeting at Garrett's house to talk about the website that they're doing for the vineyard, and Nicole comes in. And who is Nicole? Like, Nicole is the quintessential, like, prim and proper posh woman that happens to be Max's ex-fiance. So now we have like this already like emotional abrasiveness. But Nicole comes in and she's always the center of attention, and she's always put together, and she's domineering. She controls the situation. And Ella is sitting there, and she's hot and she's uncomfortable, and she hasn't been able to find anything that she can eat. And she blows up at Nicole, and she won't apologize for it. And I think the thing is that like, I just wonder if people know people like this, where it's like with women, oftentimes, like the way that we're socialized, there's like a queen bee. And I know that seems like tacky and high school, but it's not always like the most beautiful woman in the room. It's not always the youngest woman in the room or anything like this. But there's someone who is this person where it's like they are controlling the room. And in the book, that like the men are like, oh, poor Nicole. And that's part of it, is like men respond to the fact that whoever the kind of queen bee is going to get all of the attention, and it can do no wrong, is kind of how I see it. And the thing is that like Nicole comes in, she's running her mouth, she's not letting anybody else talk, and she makes a crappy comment to Ella about her dress. Like, she tells her it looks cheap, like, oh, you were smart. Like, she covers it up in a compliment. And that's the other thing about like these characters or these type of women that I think show up in real life, is that they can say things that are very condescending. But if you look at the comment, you're like, oh, I don't know that she actually meant anything wrong. So like they hide their like snide, rude comments in like plain language, so that way they can feign innocence. And she tells her that like, oh, you were so smart to be wearing this cheap, comfortable dress, Ella. And it's like, who says that? Like literally, like who says that? Who tells someone that it's good that they wore a cheap dress? Like, what a bitch. So like she's sitting here doing that, and Ella just like snaps, sitting there eating her fudgesicle, and like I was rolling on the floor laughing, like just thinking about this moment. And I remembered when my own friend was pregnant, and it was a July, and her baby shower was outside, and her feet were swollen and her hair was all over the place. And she was just like, Marley, can you get these people to just wrap it up? Because I need to go inside and put my feet up. Like, I know they're well intended, but this is going on way too long. I don't need to play these baby games anymore. And that reminded me so much of what Ella was doing here. And so it's like, really, Nicole should have apologized for being like taking over the situation, and for not being respectful to someone else, and like putting her down. And if we think about who Nicole is, right, like she's Max's partner, she's totally insecure. She's jealous of Ella because Ella has been Max's best friend this whole time. And so it doesn't really matter how you look or, you know, what you're wearing or anything like that. Like, insecurities come in all different kinds of packages. So I'm curious if you also felt that way about Nicole. Like, if it was like, hey, okay, like I can see that she would be insecure and all of that, but also like she maybe needed to be knocked down a peg just a little bit. And like Ellen needs the space to be able to get the information she needs for her job. And like, she's in this situation, even if she wasn't pregnant, like we don't have to look any which way. Like, she was going over to her neighbor's house, who, yes, is her employer, but there's no reason she shouldn't be wearing a comfortable summer dress and eating fudgesicles with an 11-year-old. Like, that's fantastic. So that, like, I felt like that was like the moment of like everyone seeing what was going on with her and knowing that there's a new Ella in town. And it's not that you should be snarky or bitchy all of the time and say everything that you mean when it's not helpful. I don't think that way at all. But I do know that like I have spent so much time in my life trying to not offend anyone. It's something that like I think to a fault. Like it's good sometimes, right? Like keep the energy moving through the situation. Like you choose your fights. Like there's some things that are just totally not worth it. But sometimes I do that to the point where I'm like deprecating myself and I'm allowing people to walk all over me. And I think that that's the case with Ella, that like when you first come out and you try to speak your truth and you try to be authentic, sometimes it doesn't come out right. And sometimes you're a jerk. But I would much rather like apologize later for being a jerk and see the situation in a different way and at least be trying instead of just staying hidden and staying small my whole life. So I felt like I was cheering her on at that point. And then they like, her and Philippe like move forward together in this really interesting dance. And the other relationship dynamic that I think is really interesting is that like Philippe is kind of old school and he is, I would say, at least a little bit controlling. And you see that in Max too. Like Max is really controlling and he's very like good old boys, like this is the woman and this is the man and she should do what I say and that kind of thing. Like you can feel that from him. And that, I mean, that's really common for guys from this area. So like, even though Philippe is different, he still has that little bit of an air about him where he's like trying to help her and kind of saying like, I know better than you do for yourself. And so someone might say like, hey, she's jumping from one domineering partner to the other or love interest to the other, and maybe that's not so good. But the thing is that like, I think it is because a lot of men are like this, and some of them are going to be rigid and it turns not so good, but some of them just need to learn boundaries. And this is a healthy way to learn boundaries. And I think that if Ella doesn't have somebody who's going to continue to push her in that way and make her stand up for herself and make her say, no, like, I get it that you're trying to help me, but in this situation, I know best for me. Like she needs somebody to kind of fight with and push back on so that that way she can be in control of her own life, but also accept help when it's necessary and have someone that's not going to back down. And that's why I love Philippe so much, is that like, this girl is all over the place. She is deprecating herself. She is running away from him. She is hiding things. She is being erratic and spontaneous and emotional. And she's burping all over the place, which is so funny. It's like, yeah, girl, you're pregnant. You're going to definitely be burping. But he doesn't back down. Like he doesn't shy away. We think he is, but he doesn't. Like he's still there and he's like, hey, I understand there's a lot going on with you and you don't trust me and you've been through a lot. So I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to show you. And I hope that you're going to accept it at some point, that like, I'm all in, like, this is how it is. And she eventually gets to see that. And she lets her family back in and everybody's there just to support her and celebrate her. And that's what, like, stepwise, she gets these little bits of reassurance that she's looking for along the way of like, hey, just because I did something that is unconventional, just because I have this huge life-changing event happen from a one-night stand, doesn't mean that people aren't going to support me. And just because I'm a little bit different than they thought I was, you know, some of them are really happy to see that she's finally standing up for herself. And just because it's an adjustment and people have to, you know, adapt to how she is, it doesn't mean that they don't love her any less. And that's what I love so much, is that like she gets surrounded by her family again, supporting her and loving her. And she even gets to make amends with Max and Nicole and helps them celebrate their union together. And it's like almost by doing that, by having their marriage at her property and setting all of that up, like she's able to really say goodbye and close that chapter for herself, and right, like create space where maybe some of that like hollowness would have still been if you didn't get that type of closure, or there still would have been like space in her heart in a way that was conflicting with having a full relationship with Philippe. Like she doesn't have to do that because she's able to let all of it go. And the other thing that is great is like in this book, there's real magic, right? Like she casts a spell and she does it because she's feeling so unconfident. But then she sees that she doesn't really need it. And part of another reason why I just love this series is because it's like, just because you have magic or because you're a wise woman, it doesn't mean that you have everything all figured out. You're still a human, and human things still happen to you. And like, connect with the elements in nature and your intuition in a way that is working like towards harmony and allowing rather than forcing yourself in another direction. And so, you know, it's like whether you practice magic or you don't, whether you pray or you don't, it doesn't really matter, because our intention and our attention goes to certain things, and what we put into it is what we get out of it. And the world shows us what we need to see. And so, I don't know, I would love to know if anyone else feels as strongly as I do about how fantastic Ella is, and how, like, I know that some things can seem fantastic, like, oh, of course, he's very rich and he's very handsome and French. But it's like, that happens in real life too. And there's different versions of that, because she mentions a few times he's not conventionally good looking. Like, some people might not see what she saw in him. And when she sees him, he's this gorgeous Frenchman. But when he was seeing himself, it sounded more like he felt like he was a little bit awkward. And when she sees herself, she says, I'm the plain and I'm the ordinary one. But when he sees her, she is pure magic Cinderella. So, you know, there's that perspective there. And so I love to see that they got together and that they're going to like start this life together that is going to be really special. And so she comes back in later books, kind of popping in and out, and she's there in full form. She doesn't lose herself. So I just think that this was the most fun story. And so my intention for you is that you are able to have an Ella moment, and that you're able to let out a little bit of yourself. And even if it's messy, and even if it blows up in your face a little bit, that you just try. And that, you know, you give yourself an opportunity to say your honest opinion from time to time, and you feel confident in your cheap dress, because there's no reason not to just be unapologetically you. So I hope you enjoyed this book, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.